This PragerFU is in response to Dennis Prager's essay, Everything the Left Touches It Ruins. Now add science. Let's start with the general and move to the specific. Broadly speaking, Dennis is an ignoramus when it comes to science. He doesn't like science because the values of science are absolutely antithetical to his worldview, which is based on the Judeo-Christian tradition. Anti-authoritarianism, egalitarianism, humility, education, inquiry, doubt, openness and transparency, progress and innovation, merit, etc. These scientific values are poison to Western religion, which is at its core totalitarian. Preferring authoritarianism, dogmatism, blind faith, ignorance, inequality, blasphemy laws, misogyny, and ideological stagnation. I learned this back in the late 80s and early 90s when I was working with and for Dennis. One of the reasons we parted ways is because I valued science and he didn't. I remember listening to one of his lectures on evolution where he presented a mix of creationism and intelligent design, making what he thought was a brilliant point about the necessity of a god to oversee and direct evolution, asking, "How does a blue fish know to swim in blue coral?" Brilliant question, right? I mean, how does it know? Dennis's willful ignorance of science and its methods has never been more clear than it is in this essay. Quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic has hastened the left's ruining of science. This had already begun with the left's attack on objectivity, the most essential value in science, the very thing that makes science possible." Dennis backs this up by pointing to a California university which is making serious attempts at remedying previous gender and racial bias in their science programs, which of course has nothing to do with the objectivity of science itself, but rather with admissions policy, which is open to debate. But this doesn't change science. Real science will continue to be dependent on observation, demonstration, repeatability, data, experiment, peer review, etc. Actual science is by definition objective, meaning that its results are universal and repeatable to anyone regardless of who is admitted to any given university. Leftists can't change that. Then Dennis goes completely off the cliff. Yet another example of leftism overwhelming medical science is the medical profession's denial of the benefits of hydroxychloroquine and zinc in the early days of a COVID-19 infection. He goes on, "The number of Americans killed by the medical boards, the pharmaceutical boards, the FDA, and the CDC for not allowing doctors to prescribe hydroxychloroquine in the early days following a patient's diagnosis with COVID-19 and outside of a hospital setting, and the number killed by doctors who could but would not prescribe hydroxychloroquine is likely in the tens of thousands." Is this based on various studies, objective studies? Or is that just some number Dennis decided to throw out there, entirely without evidence? The essay presents nothing more than this assertion for us to go on, which reminds me, go on, Dennis. On my radio show, Yale University epidemiologist Dr. Harvey Risch said, because we were blocked from using it, hydroxychloroquine, in the United States to the present point, probably at least 100,000 people have died. Well, he never said he had a Yale University epidemiologist on his show who had a differing opinion. I guess that settles it then, right? That's about as objective as it gets. I mean, what could we even say when Dennis has a Yale University epidemiologist who has made such a pronouncement? There's really no comeback from that, right? I mean, that's checkmate, my friends. I surrender. Holy jumping fucking Jesus, Dennis. How fucking ignorant can you be? Science, first and foremost, doesn't give a shit about your epidemiologist, his credentials, or the prestige of the university at which he works. Science cares only about the evidence and the quality of that evidence. That's it. That's what makes science objective, you colossal fucking moron. But I guess that's better than Dennis's previous authority on the subject, Dr. Stella Immanuel, who believes that fertility problems are caused by demons having astral sex with people in their sleep. I shit you not. What Dennis and his Yale friend needed to do was present actual studies of the benefits of hydroxychloroquine. Proper, randomized, double-blind studies involving large numbers of people, and then replicating those studies and having them peer-reviewed for possible errors and/or bias in methodology. No studies are presented in Dennis's essay, just opinion. What was Dennis saying about objectivity? The people ruining science, Dennis, are the people using their credentials or lack thereof to make wild, untested, unproven claims about the benefits of a therapy before that therapy has been put through the rigor of proper scientific investigation. The people ruining science, Dennis, are the people pushing miracle cures because they don't want to do the difficult, time-consuming work involved in doing actual science, especially those doing so for political purposes. Science does not jump to conclusions, Dennis, unlike you. It does not bend to our wishes and desires. It doesn't respect authority. And it sure as hell doesn't yield to political pressure. You're thinking of the Trump administration's CDC. When you run a fake university, my alma mater, PragerFU, go Devils! I guess we can't really expect you to prefer the objectivity of actual science to the opinion of a Yale epidemiologist now, can we? What was I thinking? For PragerFU, I'm me. Thanks for watching. You just have to understand one thing about creation, that every project you get involved in, especially a project with sentient beings, ultimately is just going to find its way to breaking your heart. Somewhere along this journey, you may see some personality quirks that are weird. The Bible says that I am no respecter of persons, and that pretty much covers it. In dealing with the deity, I would say that your best bet is probably cash. I cannot begin to tell you how important it is to find some good apologists. They're like sleazy defense attorneys. Minus the ethics, of course. If you want to know how and when to interpret things metaphorically versus literally, you just have to ask yourself one question. What will serve me in this moment? If you don't get physically ill seeing your first pair of hominid genitalia, something's wrong. You always think you're not going to get physically ill, but you do. Oh. A fool and his money are soon parted. I know that, you know that. But whatever it takes, you cannot let your flock know that. Never underestimate the power of a silly hat. If you would like to understand how an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful deity can create such a terrible mess, I invite you to join me in this class. And maybe we can figure it out together. I'm Mr. Deity, and this is my Mr. Class.